Let's just say that I did notice that the Black Swordsman Arc and the Lost Children chapter share a lot of the same themes, so let's just get to it. I think that the Lost Children chapter wants to reinforce to the reader that Guts is messed up post-Eclipse. After the first few panels introduces the Holy Iron Chain Knights, we actually have a time skip here. We go 2 years into the future. Now, Guts in these 2 years has been basically leaving a wake of destruction behind him, in that of mostly dead bodies, it seems like. Rumors have been spreading of a swordsman clad in all black, carrying a huge sword and being accompanied possibly by an elf. And this swordsman has been linked to all these areas of chaos and destruction. The army of the Holy Sea is hunting him down, or whatever the hell they think it is. Farnese, Serpico, Azan, and the rest are hunting down the one who shall call down upon the world an age of darkness. The angel is the Hawk of Darkness. Now, immediately, I thought that the phrasing, the Hawk of Darkness, was interesting. Hawk has to be used there on purpose, right? Could they know that this is someone that is formerly associated with the Band of the Hawk? I doubt that they know anything about Femto, so I'm assuming that there has to be some type of hint at them knowing the Band of the Hawk. I don't know, maybe. Guts winds up saving a girl, Jill, from bandits in the woods. He kills a demon tree just for kicks. And the girl, Jill, takes him and Puck back to her village. Which in hindsight is probably a bad idea because as soon as the villagers see Puck and Elf, they freak out and attack Guts. Why, you ask? Well, because elves have been coming down into the town and eating people. And this is when I really started to feel for Guts. He doesn't seem to get a break, ever. Guts pretty willingly accompanied Jill back to the town because he sort of yearned for some sort of normalcy, even if it's just a little sliver of it. Unfortunately for Guts, pain and suffering seems to be the only thing that can follow him around. Now, I mentioned in my previous video that Guts seems to have a soft spot for children, and there's definitely more examples of this in the Lost Children chapter, although Guts certainly still loves to use children as human shields or bait, really just as much. I've also started to notice that Guts seems to go berserk when there are monsters or apostles around, no pun intended. He disregards people, children even. At this point, I actually think Guts is acting worse than he was in the Black Swordsman Arc. To me, he seems to be digging real deep into an almost evil side of himself. Now, I've considered Guts up until this point in my reading to be relatively good. I mean, as good as one can be for being a mercenary who's killed hundreds, if not thousands of people already. But I'm talking to more where his heart is at. I mean, look at what he's doing here. He's literally dangling a boy from his sword to draw in the monster elves. You made a good lore, boy. He also uses Jill as a human shield from the villagers attacking him, although he does actually apologize to her afterwards. Even when Guts shows brief moments of compassion, he's still not quite a good guy, but the Black Swordsman who will use anything and anyone to his advantage. Despite all of what I just said about Guts there, Jill still wants to accompany Guts to see if the Queen Elf is actually her former friend Rosine. What I do like about Guts, especially when dealing with children, is that he doesn't sugarcoat things. He's a realist, he tells them how it is, but when he's not using them as a shield or bait anyways. Jill still wants to go with Guts, but he straight up tells her, I'm going to go and kill her. Don't you get it? 1, you'll be in danger. 2, I'm going there to kill her. I'm not going there to have a party with Rosine. I'm going there to murder her. Part of Guts' struggles is that he's dealing with ghosts and demons every single night of his life. And I'm starting to realize that Guts goes somewhere else when these situations arise. We see it as well when Jill confirms that Rosine had a Behelit. Miura shows Guts many times during these sequences with this sort of evil grin. Many times with no pupils, drawn as if he's almost vibrating with some type of berserker rage. Guts looks as if he's enjoying himself during these moments. And I think he's actually convinced himself that he does actually enjoy it. Look at this evil grin. Guts is scary. I mean, yes, he did previously give his whole, this is my declaration of war, but after everything he's been through, does he truly enjoy all of this? I guess it doesn't actually even matter if he doesn't. He certainly seems as if he's convinced himself either way. Especially for the fact that if he doesn't continue, there's no way he'll get another chance at Femto. And what really helped me to understand this is that if Guts does manage to die, his suffering isn't over. He doesn't simply fail at reaching Femto and defeating him. Guts' brand means that he'll be finally sacrificed for Griffith's sake, as were the rest of the Band of the Hawk, presumably to some sort of hell. I've been thinking about Guts' situation a lot here, and this isn't to say that I believe Guts is actually evil or deserves all of what he's going through, but hear me out. I haven't looked up many opinions on this because I know that I'd definitely be spoiled, so let me know if people talk about this theory, the fact that this is all punishment for Guts' previous actions. Does Guts deserve his ultimate fate? Up until this point in the story, Guts has killed hundreds, if not thousands, of people. Yes, obviously Guts has been through probably the most suffering by any character I've ever encountered in any medium, but it's not as if he was this previously kind-hearted soul. Yes, war is war, and it's really all Guts has ever known since growing up on the battlefield itself. The one thing that sticks out for me is the assassination on Julius and the unfortunate casualty of his son, Adonis. Obviously, Guts is shocked when the figure coming through the doorway is Adonis, and he especially wouldn't want to kill a kid, but he does. Guts kills the father and son and many, if not all, of the guards on his way out making his escape. He willingly accepted Griffith's assassination order. I didn't really think of this when I first read through the Golden Age arc, or even when I was making my video on it. But this is the first time that I actually believe that Guts did something truly evil. Yeah, he killed Gambino in a fit of rage, but I still feel that he was justified in his actions. And obviously it still haunts Guts, as we see when he confesses it to Casca that he killed his father. I'm assuming as the story unfolds that Guts slowly grows out of his Black Swordsman persona, maybe? Or at least starts leaning back towards human? One thing that sticks out is that there is no rest for Guts at all. This is his time to live. And maybe this hell on earth situation that he's in is enough of a punishment and atonement for all the terrible things he's done in the past. He's certainly already been through hell himself through the course of his life. Throughout the Lost Children chapter, we see Guts starting to come to terms with the fact that he's starting to hold back. The keyword here is starting. He nearly cuts Jill in half, but manages to stop at the last second when he's fighting the ghost children. He also asks himself if he has been holding back for some reason, going too easy on Rosine, possibly because of her appearance or because of Jill's story about her. Yet, at the same time, he also admits that he may have been attempting to kill both Jill and Rosine, and Puck calls him out for it. He probably would have been successful on his second attempt to chop them both in half had Jill's father not shot a crossbow bolt into him. But at least there's some progress here, right? And we do see from Guts himself that he does seem to force himself to put this Black Swordsman persona on when needed. He definitely needs to amp himself up to kill Rosine. Black it out one more time. I'll take my urge to kill and black everything else out. The Lost Children chapter is full of a lot of great battles. Guts showing his brilliant strategy and tactics over and over, bringing fire to the cocoons, fighting Ornstein and Smo, the beetle and praying mantis, where he does a combo hand cannon shot with a sword swipe to take them both out at the same time. Yeah, a lot of Guts' strategy does seem to involve getting a surprise close-up cannon blast, but it seems to work out for the most part. No one else has that type of equipment. And it works out at least until Rosine, when he decides to finally get skewered through his cheeks and jaw so we can get a close-up surprise shot out. These fights were all well and good, and yeah, this side story about a girl turning apostle and almost dragging her friend Jill into it was great entertainment, but I feel like the important parts that I took out of the Lost Children chapter hit me at the end when Jill begs Guts to take her with him. Guts shows Jill the reality of not just his world, but the world itself. Take a hard look at the shadows, at the darkness around me. If you come with me, this is your paradise. Guts says this as he's showing the monsters behind him and showing Guts himself to be an evil entity before swiping the Dragon Slayer to rid the two of the evil spirits, bringing himself once again back down to normal. There's no paradise for you to escape to. What you'll find what's there is just a battlefield. In my last video, Hawk of Light commented that they would like to hear my thoughts on the art itself, and I think the artwork is great. I've been putting together a list of some of my favorite panels. I love the way Miura draws motion, for example. But I want to come back to a concept I mentioned earlier. When I said Miura shows Guts in this arc with an evil grin and how he's almost vibrating with rage or excitement as he's entering some sort of berserker form, the end panels actually made me want to go back and reread through the whole chapter because I noticed that Guts transforms into this form many times. And it reminds me a bit of Akuma and Evil Ryu from Street Fighter. I'm no lore master in this, but I know that the Satsui no Hado is a surge of murderous intent. And that's what I feel like Guts unlocks or transforms to during these moments. Miura is playing with light and dark here, the good and evil that encompasses Guts. But what's most interesting is my realization that Guts is the necessary evil that the world needs. Guts is traveling around the world defeating apostles, and it didn't really hit me until the end of this chapter. I was just thinking of Guts as this man who has to battle monsters every night due to his brand, but he's also traveling around removing evil from the world and helping people be free of this evil. Guts saves Jill and her village ultimately. No longer will they be terrified of elves coming to eat the residents, their friends and family. Guts is a necessary evil. We see Jill recognize this when Guts is burning the cocoons. For an instant, swaying inside the blaze. He was the only one who looked more like a terrifying monster to me. We see the elves shown in this darkness as well, a fantastic display of light and dark. Dark is evil, light is good. As the evil elves are jet black with no features, after they die, they return to the light as white bodies of the children they once were. White, the same as Jill and Puck. For Guts, once again we see this when he literally tells himself to black out everything except his urge to kill. He gets there right after seeing Jill still wandering around like a fool, and then he knows what to do. He waits, and waits, and finally Rosine shows up. Then we see Guts in this form once again when he's ready to finish off Rosine, not caring if he would kill Jill as well. He used Jill as bait. He let her be put in harm's way, basically, and not just the harm that potentially could be there from Rosine, but the harm from himself in his form. Luckily for Jill, a crossbow bolt to Guts knocks him out of this rage. We see this dark Guts one last time when Guts is warning Jill to stay away from him. Jill tells us that after she recognized that Guts leaving leaves a clear sky like the kind after a storm blows through. Guts is the necessary storm of darkness that humanity needs, as he leaves a path of light behind him once he rids the world from the localized evil. I did not realize how much I would actually pull from Berserk at this point, but now I truly understand why people hold this manga, this whole story so close to their heart. The Lost Children is an allegory for Guts' own life. Jill is Guts, dealing with an abusive father, a close friend who turns evil. She wants to run away with Guts to leave her problems behind her, but Guts will not let this be, as he knows how this story plays out, a worse life than she could ever imagine. His life. I love how the chapter ends with Puck explaining that he just can't leave him be, that idiot, and that's as much of a happy ending as I feel like I'm going to see in any chapter or arc in Berserk. The Lost Children chapter is very important to Berserk and Guts' story. I think it's especially important to take in directly after the Golden Age arc, as it's a reminder of what Guts has become after the eclipse. We see that Guts has to transform his mindset into that of the Black Swordsman. Maybe this is because of the way of the last 2 years. We saw at the end of the Black Swordsman arc that Guts does still have some humanity left, as shown with the tear for Teresa. Now, I did mention that I did reread the Black Swordsman arc after the Golden Age arc and before the Lost Children chapter because it fits chronologically. But maybe it wasn't needed, as the first half of the Lost Children left me feeling as if the themes were a little similar to that of the Black Swordsman. Guts is a badass and he does whatever he can to kill evil, but I did realize that that's not necessarily the case here. For me, I'm finding that Guts is way more human than he was compared to the Black Swordsman arc, in my opinion, as he really needs to focus to black everything out but his urge to kill when he needs to get serious. He's scary when he actually manages to do this when we see him drawn as all black because he seems to disregard human life, even children, which is his weak spot. I guess this is Guts going berserk? But when he's not in that state, he does seem to have some good in him. I do think this has been my favorite part of Berserk thus far. It's no longer an origin story, but Guts' struggle. I can't wait to get back to the convention arc to see what awaits Guts next.